Assalamu alaikum and welcome to In Conversation With. And today we're diving into the story of someone who's reshaping grassroots politics in Britain. And he's doing it with heart, with his heritage, and a whole load of compost. Let's meet Mothin Ali, the Green Party councillor for Gipton and Harehill, and now the co-deputy leader of the Green Party of England and Wales. Yes, you've heard that right. The first ever Green to represent his ward. And not only that, the first ever Muslim leader who's serving for a national party as a deputy leader in England and Wales. And the Green Party of England and Wales is a progressive political movement. It's focused on climate action, social justice and grassroots democracy. And under the inspirational leadership of Zach Polanski, the party has undergone a bold renewal, embracing eco-populism, and is surging in membership and in the polls, and it's sharpening its stance on wealth inequality, EU re-entry, and most importantly, global human rights. Polanski's dynamic approach has re-energised the Greens, positioning them as a growing force for radical, compassionate change in British politics. And Mothin's journey started in Sheffield. Born in a British Bangladeshi family, his dad was a steel worker. They moved to Leeds when he was a teenager, and that's where his roots, both political and literal, began to grow. Welcome, Mothin Ali, to In Conversation With. I have to say, of all the ones that I've done, this is the one that I really wanted to do. I saw you at the demonstration a few weeks ago, and I said to my producer, I said, I really hope he's going to be there because I'm hearing rumours that he's going to be there. And when I met you and spoke to you and we recorded it and played it across our channel, it was something about you that came to the fore. And in amongst everything, you're political, you're an activist, and you do all of these wonderful things that I've read out. But it was your humility, your humbleness, and that seems to permeate your personality. Tell us how your upbringing made you the person you are. Tell us about growing up in Yorkshire and having that wonderfully authentic Yorkshire accent. Let's start from there.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Thank you very much for having me on. I mean, I grew up in a very industrial part of Sheffield, so that's where I was born.
Yeah.
My father passed away when I was very young, but some of my happiest memories are watching my father, my mum on the allotment, you know, where they would... I remember this one, I've got this one memory of them waiting for the manure delivery to arrive, and they dug this massive pit in the middle of the garden and filled it with manure and then build a bed on top of it. So it's a planting. So the compost is underneath, the manure's underneath. Mm-hmm. And while that's breaking down, they've got the soil on top and then they're planting into there. And then, and then it's going to be fertile for years to come. And I just remember that because my big brother and my big sister were all helping. And me and my little sisters and my brother, we were all just running around, you know. So it was just like a real family occasion. And I mean, after my father passed away, sadly, we lost that allotment.
How old were you when your father passed away?
I was 7, so I was quite young. So my mum had to raise us by herself.
How big was your family? How many siblings?
There was 6 of us. So there's a big gap between the eldest 2 and the next 4. Mm-hmm. There's 4 of us that are quite close together, and then there's the eldest 2. So my eldest brother had to take on that father role. Yeah. So he dropped out of university to come back home and look after us all. So he did a lot for us to turn us into decent people.
Did you experience the kinds of, you know, in those days, you know, the racism which people say now, we're going back to those days. Did you ever encounter that?
So, I mean, the community that we lived in was quite a working class community. Yeah. So it had a really close-knit working class community, which was absolutely amazing. But there were elements of that open racism. And this is one that I've never really spoke about up until very recently. One of my first experiences of racism was in primary school. Mm-hmm. So some older boys, they got hold of me. They pinned me up against the wall, and then they urinated on me.
Wow, that's awful.
And I must have been 5, 6, that sort of age. And then they were about to beat me up, but my brother came running around the corner and chased them off.
Wow.
So this is the kind of stuff that we've grown up with. And a couple of weeks ago in Earl's Court, someone had recognised me from the internet.
Yeah.
And start shouting, "I've seen you on the internet, you need to be deported, you need to be deported," and then start using the P word.
Yes.
And getting really abusive. So we've gone back to those same things that were happening in the 80s to happening now. And I talk about it. I wanted to keep that thing quiet because I didn't want to talk about it. I was encouraged, but one of my friends encouraged me to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because other people are experiencing it and they're not talking about it. So if it can happen to the deputy leader of the Green Party,
yes,
anyone can experience this. So it's important that we all speak about it, and it's important that we all amplify these kind of attacks that we're suffering from. And we need to make sure that people know that this is what's going on, because ordinary people in this country are decent. When the rhetoric from the internet starts transferring into real life, ordinary people will not accept that, and they need to know what's actually happening.
Many criticise the Labour Party for where it is at this moment in time, but you mentioned Jeremy Corbyn previously, and that stopped you from leaving the Labour Party. Did you not feel to get more involved in Labour politics when he was there? Because obviously that was a space perhaps you were more comfortable being active in.
So I was active, so I was campaigning for other people.
But you never stood for election?
No, I never stood for election.
That's what I kind of meant,
I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be the politician.
Wow.
I joined the Green Party in 2020, and I completely went off the radar again. I turned up in 2022, and I teach gardening, right?
Yeah.
So I teach gardening. I enjoy gardening. That's something that really gives me a lot of, a lot of enjoyment.
Yeah.
Just being out in green space, having my hands in the soil.
Yeah.
This is what feels good for me. And I turned up at a Green Party meeting in 2022, hoping to meet some fellow gardeners, some hippies, some people who
that's the impression.
Yeah, I mean, I had that same impression. I thought I'd turn up and I'd meet people who I could talk about plants to, who I could talk about trees to.
Yeah.
And they were selecting candidates. They were selecting paper candidates for the local elections that were coming up. And my first meeting, they asked me if I'd be a paper candidate in a ward that has no connection to me.
Yeah.
So I said, look, if you want to use my name, then either use it in Gipton and Harehills, where I grew up, or use it in Rounday, where I live.
Yeah.
And the guy who was standing for Rounday was like, no, I want to campaign in Rounday. And the guy who was standing in Gipton and Harehill was like, you can have Gipton and Harehill, it means nothing to me.
Yeah.
And so I got my name on the ballot. A couple of weeks before the election, I was like, okay, I want some leaflets, I want to do some campaigning. And the party's, no, you're a paper candidate, you can't do any campaigning. I said, all right, put me in contact with where you get the leaflets from. So I got the leaflets designed, I got the leaflets made, and within about 3 or 4 weeks, we ended out 10,000 leaflets, and the Green Party had gone from having a couple of hundred votes, now we've got over 1,000 votes in that first time.
Yeah.
And that's when we really made a mark in Gipton and Harehills. In 2023, I got to 1,500 votes, still about 1,200 votes behind Labour.
Yeah.
And then in 2024, the whole community came out. I mean, they were, everything just came good in that year. Do you know, there was the Gaza issue, there was people disappointed with the Labour councillor.
Yeah.
I'd built up my profile enough for people to come out and support me, and the whole community just came out, and they really got behind me, and we won by 700 votes.
And that's what you've said is a journey where you had to suffer some defeats, putting all that effort in, and then only for you to see the Labour candidate getting in repeatedly, probably because of the badge and the branding, etc. And here you are, still continuing, still persevering, still trying to make your mark. And whilst you're right, in 2024, all the factors sort of worked in your way, it would have been because of the hard work that you did in previous elections and getting that profile up. Otherwise, it's not easy to win local elections.
No, it's not. I mean, a lot of it was now talking about the things I was already doing. So I was already doing litter picks. I was already doing activism in the community. Do you know, if a tree fallen down, then I'd go and chop it up and clear it. I was already doing that sort of stuff. I was already helping in the local community centres, in the masjids, in the churches. And now it was more about actually putting that into the public eye. That's the thing I felt a little bit uncomfortable with. Transitioning from doing something to help people for the sake of helping people to now actually talking about it publicly. That's the thing that made me a little bit uncomfortable.
There's two things that I remember you for. It's in my mind. One, when you were elected as councillor, and you had your Palestinian scarf, and it's a very joyous moment, right? And secondly, when the riots were taking place in your locality, and I remember seeing you, you know, as the peacemaker, and it was very inspirational. I mean, you know, for everybody watching, or certainly sane people watching at least, and standing in between the rioters and the police. Or was that just instinctive?
I mean, I got a phone call from the local inspector, and he was like, "Look, we need you in Harehills straight away. There's something happened. We need you here." So I ran from my house to where the riots happened, and the scene that was there, police cars turned upside down, people out on the streets. So what we did was we tried to just calm things down, keep people calm, try and build some sort of communication channel between the police, between the social services, between the people who were involved. I think that whole thing could have been stopped if there was willingness to communicate.
Yes.
It could have been stopped there and then if there was more willingness to communicate.
Yes.
There wasn't. People got increasingly angry. The police were given the order to withdraw.
Yes.
And that encouraged people to act out even worse. But it was getting quite violent up until just before they were given the order to withdraw. It was starting to get quite violent. Outsiders flooded into the area. People who weren't involved with the initial incident. Outsiders started coming in because they saw things on social media and they thought they were coming for a good time, and that's when the fires were lit and the bus was attacked. I mean, I was there from 6 o'clock, and the famous clip that goes around of me trying to wrestle a pallet out of someone's hand happened at about 1 o'clock. Wow. So I put in a good shift that night.
You certainly did. You were I think much to your reluctance probably, but knowing a little about you now, you were labelled the hero of Harehills. But you certainly did stop a lot of people from getting into serious trouble with the law because, we know courts are very, very keen to punish rioters, especially those from an ethnic minority background. Statistics show that, black and Asian offenders or those that are charged get higher sentences. It's a fact. But let's move on to more recent events then. You become a Green councillor 2024. Between then and now where you are the deputy leader, how did that happen? I mean, it seems to be an incredible rise, there's so many people who are Greens, they've been there for years, but here you are, taking the stage by storm.
I think that gives you a message about the Green Party. They're very open, they're very progressive. Look at the way I'm dressed.
Yeah.
They're not just electing a Muslim, they're electing a Muslim that looks like this, with a big beard, topi, jubba, everything, the full package.
Yeah.
But it's a welcoming space.
Yeah.
It allows opportunities to progress. So the riot thing got my name out in front of people. But we worked, myself, we've got an organisation called the Muslim Greens, we've got Global Majority Greens. So we worked on a motion at 2024 conference to pass a resolution to recognise what's happening in Gaza as a genocide.
Yeah.
And we were the first political party to do that.
Yes.
So long before anyone else were even talking about it, were even using that word, we passed a motion and we called it a genocide, and we made the party's recommitment to boycott, divestment and sanctions.
Yes.
And I remember at conference I gave this speech, and it was emotional, really, really emotional. And I had this really amazing speech written out that I was going to talk about all these arguments, making these really important arguments. And I got up on stage, and I was quite teary, and my glasses started steaming up, and I couldn't read my speech because of the tears in my eyes. So I just put the speech to one side, and I just spoke.
From the heart.
Yeah, I just spoke. And everyone in that hall, 2,000 people, were crying with me. You know, that motion passed with very little opposition. And I don't know. I don't like saying this, but people generally have a liking to me. Do you know? I'm not arrogant. Alhamdulillah.
You're genuine. You are who you are.
I don't speak in a way that politicians speak.
No, certainly not.
I try to speak. If I was thinking about how I'd want a politician to represent me, that's the person I try to be.
Is it? I mean, you're showing it is possible to do that because you're deputy leader of the Greens. Perhaps people need to learn that. You know, other aspiring politicians, people watching today who will be standing in elections coming in May, I suppose, or in future elections, that there's a template and a blueprint. Whether you're Muslim or not, it's not. That's besides the point. Zach Polanski, your friend, I suppose. Now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you very close? Are you? Is it like a daily texting conversation, or is it more professional?
I mean, it's more professional now. I mean, Zach is just so busy, but he's just an absolutely amazing character. Do you know, he's such a principled man.
Yeah.
The right-wing media often try to attack Zach using me.
Yeah.
Oh, your deputy leader said Allahu Akbar. So I was like, okay, so what?
God is great.
Yeah. He's a Muslim man who said Allahu Akbar.
Yeah.
What's the big deal? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way he handles that sort of criticism where normal things are made to be extraordinary.
Yes.
Yeah. So a Muslim said Allahu Akbar. Wow. As though that's headline news.
Yes.
You know? It's like if you said a man walked a dog down the street, you wouldn't put that on the headline news.
No.
But Muslims saying Allahu Akbar is somehow something that needs to be talked about. And the way he stands up to that and counteracts that narrative, this is the amazing thing about him. You know, it's not just that, but the way he talks about, he communicates in a very simple, effective way that people can connect with and resonates with. And he's talking about issues that affect ordinary people. Mm-hmm. We're talking about how we'd rebalance the country, you know, a wealth tax for people who own over £10 million in assets.
Mm-hmm. Which is a very small number.
Yeah, £10 million in assets, 1% tax on that.
Yes.
If you've got £10 million and you can't afford 1% to give away, I'd say they're pulling my leg. Yeah.
He's made and your party's made a huge inroad into Labour's support, where you're polling ahead now, and the trajectory is going higher and higher for your party. Zach Polanski, over the last few months, certainly the last 2 months, has taken as many interviews and he's been out on the airwaves, he's been doing podcasts, and he's promoting what many are terming as eco-populism. Mm-hmm. And he's turning the Greens, as one commentator said, disparagingly, into a red, you know, turning it green to red. And I think he was obviously talking about the socialism that's coming through. But is that necessarily a bad thing? I mean, isn't what many Greens effectively stand for, the traditional Greens, are policies based around socialism, or certainly the concepts of socialism, for example, fairness and equality. Mm-hmm. And is Zach Polanski doing something which the Greens should have done many years ago, because the the natural fertile ground is for it to appeal to people on the left.
So let's go back. The Green Party was called the People's Party.
Yes.
And the Ecology Party, right? So the merger of that became the Green Party.
Yeah.
So people have always been at the very heart of the party. You know, Zach talks about the wealth tax, but this has been in our manifesto for the last 2 elections.
Yes.
The man who wrote it, Adrian Ramsey, he's in a Tory-facing seat, right? So we've had these left-wing or a populist type of policies always.
Yes.
What Zach's done, he's revolutionised the way we talk about it. Do you know, he's bringing things that really matter. We've got this great manifesto. What we've not been able to do previously is talk about it in an effective way.
Yes.
And now we're just unapologetically just talking about what we stand for.
Much in the same way that those on the right of the political spectrum do. And it becomes normalised. You know, some of the language that, for example, Trump uses 10 years ago would have been outrageous. You'd think, how can somebody say these things, right? And when he got elected initially in 2016, that's what it was. You know, this guy's a racist, he's this, is that, etc. But now it's become normal language. In fact, Trump, in some respects, is probably seen as more sane than some of the others that are following through. Is it because they took that mantle and firmly planted their tanks on that lawn? And is Zach Polanski, yourself, the Green Party, doing what Labour should have done, perhaps, and said, listen, this is what we do stand for, and we're proud of standing for that, as opposed to trying to pander to the right-wing media or opinion formers who'd say, that's outrageous. How can you redistribute wealth? It's outrageous to talk about equality or the wealth tax, for example. And my question in amongst this is that the beauty about and the uniqueness about the Green Party, that you're not afraid to actually talk about the concerns and the genuine fears and beliefs that people have, but they don't see their politicians talking about it?
I think the appetite for politicians to speak in this way has been there for a long time.
Yeah.
That's, you know, British people are talked about as being apathetic. Now, I don't think British people are apathetic, and I proved that in Gipton and Harehill.
Yeah.
We increased voter turnout by 7%. And in a ward like mine, that's huge.
Massive,
yeah, that is huge. And we're doing that wherever Greens stand, because we're giving people a message that they need. It's what they want. It's what they want politicians to speak about. It's a message that they identify with, that they relate to, and we're finally doing it in a language that they want it in, that they can relate to. So we're delivering the message. We're bringing home the issues. You know, we're talking about them. So we're providing an alternative. And it's key for any politician to actually talk about what they actually stand for.
And that's what people want, don't they?
I mean, the last Labour campaign largely was about vote for Labour to get the Tories out.
Yeah.
But why am I voting for Labour? What are Labour going to do to change my life?
Yeah.
All right, Tories are horrible. They're going to get rid of Tory, okay. But what are you going to do? What are you going to deliver? And if you can't give people that message, then what do you actually stand for? Right? I didn't get into politics to change who I am. I stand for, I'm anti-war, right? I stand for ordinary working class people. Now, as soon as I get into a little bit of power, do I turn my back on that?
Yes.
I can't do that. We have to stay true to who we are.
Do you think there's that's the reason why the Greens are polling so high, numbers which nobody would ever dream of? I've always expected Greens to be at 4%, 3%, 5% at its best. Do you think the future now is for the Greens to be perhaps the principal opposition to what many are saying will be a reform government come the next election?
I think the Greens are the only opposition right now. We're the only party that's here that's taking that fight on. You know, we're the only ones that are galvanising the left and providing a real alternative. And it's disappointing that more aren't doing it, but we're the only ones who are really taking that fight to reform. Because, and another thing about reform is people don't vote for reform because they love reform or they think reform's policies are amazing.
Yes.
My ward, Gipton Harehills, Gipton is a large council estate. Do you know, it should be reform voters. But I won every single ballot box. You know, I won every single ballot box. Why? Because they see me working for my community, regardless of background, regardless of who they are, men, women, children, whatever. If they need my help, they've got me. And just because someone's Muslim or not Muslim, or someone's black or someone's white, each person's value is, to me, that they're each as precious as the other.
Yes.
And when people can feel that between their representative and them, you've got something special that's going to be hard to break. And that's one thing that I want more of, is I don't want people who are just going to drop in a seat and just keep the seat warm. I want people who actually are passionate about their communities.
Well, I must say that was something, you know. You speak with incredible sincerity. I'd love to see you in Parliament. I think you are the type of MP that people need, and I think, you know, I'm not giving my political affiliations, I'm not giving that away, but I think it's that authenticity that people need.